a U.S. soldier detained in North Korea, and debate over veterans' rights to firearms. All that and more today, July 19th, 2023. Good morning, Early Birds. I'm Zimone Perez, and this is the Early Bird Brief, produced by Defense News and Military Times. First up, officials said an American soldier facing military disciplinary actions crossed the heavily armed border from South Korea into North Korea. Two U.S. officials said the soldier detained was Private Second Class Travis King. He had just been released from a South Korean prison where he'd been held on assault charges. He was also facing additional military disciplinary actions in the United States. King was escorted to the airport to be returned to Fort Bliss, Texas, but instead of getting on the plane, he left and joined a tour of a Korean border village where he ran across the border. At a Pentagon press conference, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin confirmed a U.S. service member was likely now in North Korean custody.
What I can confirm, and I would say up front that we're very early in this event, and so there's a lot that we're still trying to learn. But what we do know is that one of our service members who was on a tour willfully and without authorization crossed the military demarcation line. We believe that he is in the BRK custody. And so we're closely monitoring and investigating the situation and working to notify the soldiers next of kin and engaging to address this incident.
Here's why it matters. Yesterday's border crossing happened as tensions remain high as North Korea continues its missile tests since the start of last year. These have happened as South Korea, Japan, and American officials slammed the North for those provocations. The United States earlier yesterday sent a nuclear-armed submarine to South Korea for the first time in decades as deterrence against the North. The area where the service member entered North Korea is jointly overseen by the United Nations Command and North Korea. No civilians live there. Cases of Americans or South Koreans defecting to North Korea are rare. More than 30,000 North Koreans have fled to South Korea, meanwhile, to avoid political oppression and economic difficulties at home since the end of the Korean War in the 1950s. In recent years, some Americans have been arrested in North Korea after allegedly entering the country from China. They were later convicted of espionage and other acts against the state. They were often released after the U.S. sent high-profile missions to secure their freedom. Another important story, Republican lawmakers accuse Veterans Affairs leaders of infringing on some veterans' rights to own firearms. GOP lawmakers said they would introduce legislation to fix what they believe is a problem, but Democratic lawmakers say the proposal could increase the risk of suicides among some veterans. The Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act would block VA officials from sharing some information with the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. That's a federal database used to determine whether an individual can buy firearms. Illinois Representative Mike Boss said about 8,000 veterans were reported to the system last year for mostly financial incompetence reasons, not criminal acts or mental health problems. But the VA action would bar all of those veterans from purchasing weapons regardless of the issue.
VA should not be able to take away a veteran's Second Amendment rights because they need help managing their benefits. Veterans should not be treated any different than every other American citizen. Even criminals have to be convicted of a crime in a court of law before their names are reported to NICS. Let me say that again. Even criminals have better due process rights than the men and women who fought to protect our constitutional rights in the first place.
The legislation would allow veterans to be reported to the background check database if a judge rules that an individual veteran is a danger to themselves or others. Republican supporters said, without protections, veterans will avoid seeking help from VA for financial or mental health issues for fear of losing their constitutional rights. But Democratic lawmakers and VA officials said that the language is impractical in the bill and mandates extra layers of bureaucracy to solve a nearly non-existent problem. A VA official said only 33 vets last year appealed their fiduciary designation, and fewer than half of those had their status changed after review. Officials said the VA does not report any individuals to the federal background check system for receiving mental health treatments. The senior official told lawmakers that the department battles against misinformation in the veteran community that tells them seeking help can lead to their guns being seized. Committee ranking member Mark Takano said he believes Republican lawmakers' concerns over the issue of veterans' Second Amendment rights has been more damaging than the current rules.
Firearms account for 70% of male veteran suicides and 50% of female veteran suicides. And veterans, number 4, are 3 times more likely to die by suicide than the general population. So it begs the question, if we all care so deeply about preventing what is clearly an epidemic among veterans of death by suicide using a firearm, why would we pursue a bill which addresses no clearly defined problem, the only clear result of which would be the removal of a safeguard that puts more guns in the hands of the most vulnerable beneficiaries VA has?
With Republicans holding the House majority, the bill has a good chance of advancing out of the chamber. Whether the measure can become law is less clear. Democratic lawmakers hold the majority in the Senate and have not shown support for the idea. Plus, President Joe Biden has made gun control and suicide prevention key focuses of his administration. About 17 veterans a day die by suicide, according to the latest data provided by the VA. That number rises to roughly 20 a day when active duty service members and reservists are included in the calculations. In other news, we are doing something a little different for the next reporter segment. Usually we take time to talk with a reporter from our newsroom about a story they wrote. But for the next few episodes, we're going to highlight the selected service members of the year across all branches of the U.S. military by the Military Times Foundation. Here's the 2023 Soldier of the Year.
Good evening, and we're coming on the air at this hour with breaking news.
Vladimir Putin now rattling his nuclear saber.
Russia has the largest stockpile of nuclear warheads in the world.
There are Ukrainians wanting to stay and protect their homeland.
They are not going to go down without a fight.
50 left.
I'm Justin Bowen. I'm a Master Sergeant in the United States Army. I currently work as the Operations Sergeant Major for the 2nd Cavalry Regiment and 2nd Squadron. What it means to me to serve is truly to kind of put your own selfish wants or your own personal needs aside and thinking of other people first. There's a sense of pride in that. So in my opinion, you're kind of a part of an elite group of American citizens who are willing to do whatever is necessary to keep their nation safe and secure. So currently my job as a 19 Zulu Senior Armor Sergeant is I oversee operations for multiple different organizations. I started off as a 19 Delta Cavalry Scout, which is reconnaissance and intelligence gathering for the Army. I was a part of a numerous amount of exercises, deploying soldiers all across the European continent in support of training missions or other type of exercises to help foreign national partners train for their upcoming missions or upcoming deployments to other countries. Being a scout has enabled me to kind of see things differently. By paying attention to detail and focusing on the smaller things that most people would miss allows me to help other soldiers in the same sense of allowing them to see projects they may have missed or mistakes they may have made or prevent them from making a mistake in the future. In February 24th of 2022, due to Russian aggression when they invaded Ukraine, the 2nd Cavalry Regiment was notified and requested to push forward to the eastern flank of multiple countries to help support our NATO alliance and additional countries who provided support and aid to the Ukrainian efforts. My responsibility was ensuring that our people got to the right place at the right time with the right things. I assisted in deploying the regiment in a very short time frame, matter of weeks, deploying over 86 people to one country and over 300 to 400 people in multiple different countries. To help aid the Ukrainians in sense of training is extremely important for me because we have a vast knowledge of tactics, techniques, procedures that could help increase their survivability and help increase their knowledge and allow them also to pass those lessons forward. The Ukrainian soldiers that we've trained have a wealth of knowledge. They are your farmer, they are your mechanic, they are your baker who are losing their home every single day or getting closer to losing their home. So they have a purpose. And to help support their purpose and expand their purpose was extremely meaningful to me personally. Every soldier who puts on a uniform is a human first, is a person first, is a mother, a father, a son, a brother, somebody else. They are people who are willing to fight for what they believe and fight for what's right. For me, what's worth fighting for is a future. Whatever that future may be, we're only here for a short amount of time, so you fight for your future and make sure that you make the world a little bit better for the next person coming up.
Also on the radar for today, a new report says the U.S. will spend $117 billion over the coming decade on its systems to monitor, prepare, and launch nuclear weapons. The Congressional Budget Office found that the price tag for the military's nuclear command, control, and communications would cost $23 billion more than the previous 10-year estimate made in 2021. The CBO said the increase is because of modernizing nuclear infrastructure. That includes replacing the E-4B National Airborne Operations Center and E-6B Take Charge and Move Out aircraft, which provides airborne coordination for the U.S. nuclear arsenal. The Biden administration promised to beef up its nuclear command and protect the no-fail networks from cyber and electromagnetic attack. Newer nuclear arms are expected to enter the stockpile after 2030. About $756 billion would be spent on the nuclear arsenal in the next decade if the budget requests from the Defense and Energy departments are fully funded. Much of the country's nuclear weapons infrastructure has deteriorated since the Cold War. Weapons are also undergoing complex refurbishment programs to keep them active. Lawmakers are seeking a clear catalog of spending on the nuclear command. Major force programs are featured in the Pentagon budgets as groupings of related efforts and resources. The Biden administration opposes a budget filter for its nuclear command and believes it's administratively burdensome and disruptive of work already underway. And here are some other stories we're hearing chirps about. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs General Mark Milley participated in the most recent Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting yesterday. The group is an alliance of nations providing military aid to Ukraine. Also, the commanding officer and the senior enlisted leader at the Marine Corps' East Coast Recruit Training Regiment have been fired. U.S. officials said this week a Russian fighter jet flew very close to a U.S. surveillance aircraft over Syria over the weekend. It forced the U.S. aircraft to go through turbulent wake and put lives of the 4 American crew members in danger. And the Massachusetts Air National Guard member accused of leaking secret military papers challenged a judge's decision that he remain behind bars. Jacques Tejera's lawyers pointed this week to the pretrial release of former President Donald Trump and others charged in high-profile classified documents cases. And on this day in history, in 1969, Apollo 11 astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins orbited around the moon. The next day, Armstrong and Aldrin took a giant leap for mankind when they became the first humans to land on and walk on the moon. That's it for us this morning. To get more top stories and breaking news, go to defensenews.com/EBB to subscribe to the Early Bird Brief newsletter. Please give us a like, rating, and a comment wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on social media @defense_news and @Military Times. The Early Bird Brief is hosted and produced by me, Zimone Z. Perez. Today's episode features stories by The Associated Press, Leo Shane III, and Colin Demarest. Our editor-in-chief is Mike Bruce. Have a great day.